Right then folks, hello and welcome to Ant here at Leisure Leagues. I'm joined by Mark Clattenburg, legend in the refereeing world, it's fair to say. We've got a few questions about referee comms. It's a big thing that's grown exponentially in the last few years, especially for referees. Specifically, AX100E, who are the company that Leisure Leagues uses for our comms. What would you say is the added value of referees working with a comms system?
Oh, it's massive. I remember when I first started, there was no such thing as comms. There was no such thing as beeper flags. So you ended up having to always look across. Always keep the assistant in view. But that was very difficult if sometimes there was a ball going inside the penalty area. You can't look at the assistant, you're having to watch a challenge, where with the communication kit, you're actually having the assistant referee saying potential offside or offside, knowing that you don't have to look across.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's got its huge benefits. And also, you're not isolated, whereas a referee, you're quite isolated. Players can communicate by voice to each other, their teammates, but as a referee you can't shout across the pitch to your assistant because they wouldn't hear you with all the crowd noise. So at least with the communication it gives you a chance to be able to talk through things off the ball, as well as when things aren't going right, to G you up. But it also has some negatives, and referees do get used to it, and sometimes it's good to referee without the communication kit from time, because when you get so used to it and it goes wrong during a game, a lot of them don't have a plan B, and you need to have a plan B.
Yeah, they find themselves relying on it, and like you say, it's something that can fail.
Yeah, it's happened to me. It happened the very first FIFA tournament I went off to Colombia in 2011, and all the communication kits were for security were cut because of the military in Colombia, which meant none of the referees had communication kits, and a lot of referees, top FIFA referees, struggled because they couldn't referee a match without communication.
Yeah.
And it's you realise when you have it, it's a bit like what my wife says with a dishwasher. When you haven't got one, you don't know the difference, but when you get one, it changes your life. And it's the same as a communication kit with refereeing. Yeah. Once you have it, it changes your life. But when it goes wrong, it goes wrong.
You've got to go back to the old school. So, thinking about when it first came in, and just getting used to how to communicate, would you get assistants that would give you too much information, you had to tell them to calm themselves down? Was there some that were just not giving enough and not using it properly? Where's the kind of happy middle ground there?
I think the first point I would like to say was it was awful to wear. At first, the packs were big and bulky, so running around, I think that was the hardest thing to get used to. Actually running around with an earpiece with a battery pack on your back. That was the weirdest thing at first. But once you got used to that, then you had to get used to accents. I've got a One Arm Strong from Newcastle, but one of my assistants was from Liverpool, and my God, when he spoke, when he was passionate, I was like, what did you just say? Because that was another thing, communication, how they would communicate. And then in the end, I was a guy who didn't want much communication, but only at the right times. Some referees, I remember Mike Dean would speak all the time. They would be talking to each other all the time. I didn't. We would just have clear messages, offside, Mark, keep it going, good decision, yellow card, for example. If there was a foul, they think it's a yellow card. For me, it's a yellow card, okay, thanks. These type of communications. Because sometimes what's good about from an assistant referee to a referee is to get different angles. As a referee, you don't sometimes see it, even though the argument is the referee's close, he doesn't have the depth. Sometimes the depth has a better chance to see from a different angle, and they give it. So having that communication across, for me, Mark, it's a yellow. Okay, thanks. And it gives you, it's a team, and the communication allows you to interact as a team, where without that communication, you're not a team. You're individual.
Like say, isolated, it kind of opens up that isolation, which is amazing. Do you remember any incidents where, without the comms, you would have missed something big and it would have potentially changed the game, like a player dive in or a serious foul play, for example, that was spotted and you could reach that decision thanks to comms a bit quicker?
No, I'd just give you, I can't remember any big decisions, but there was some decisions where, for example, the assistant referee would give you a decision and I wouldn't go with it. I remember a big Champions League playoff match where the assistant said simulation, simulation, simulation. And from my angle, it wasn't simulation. I'd give a penalty. And the decision was correct. It was a penalty. So what it does is it gives you a second opinion.
Yeah.
And I was a referee that never relied. I didn't want to rely on anything. I wanted to see it myself. But if somebody else had some more information, it might be just that one piece of information could give us the whole picture.
Yeah.
And always if it was a key decision, because sometimes communication, especially in big stadiums, the noise was, I'll never forget the time in Galatasaray. That was the only time I had communication, but I couldn't hear. I couldn't hear anything anybody was saying because it was that loud in the stadium. So even though you had it, it couldn't be used.
You talk about that one where the assistant is actually communicating with you. Before comms, that assistant probably would have flagged and gone the opposite way, and it saves that cross communication and being, as the referee, put in an awkward situation by the assistant where you can now give that instruction. No, keep your flag down. I'm overruling. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, and also I'll go back to the moment in 2012 with Chelsea Manchester United with the Obermikel racist claim. That having the communication that day helped me because at least all the match officials knew what was being said.
Yeah,
it wasn't that I was on my own. And another thing that for me, all communication should be recorded. A, for protection of referees, but also B, for training and development, because you need to understand what's been said during decisions now. Because, and at the end of the day, everybody should be transparent anyways. So communication did save me a lot of problems because at least they interviewed all the match officials to ask, did I actually say them words?
Yeah. And I suppose as well, if an incident has happened and obviously a player's making their way now off the field of play, you've got a fourth official there who can quickly communicate to the benches to keep them calm, because there's another flashpoint after the red card has been produced, potentially, that can be controlled through comms.
And same with the coach, if he's throwing his arms around and disagreeing with one of your decisions, you can actually say to the fourth official, go and have a word with him. If I come across, then it's going to be more severe, so give him his one warning and hope normally that can help. So you don't want to interrupt the game, and communication allows you not to interrupt that game if you can communicate in the right way.
Fantastic. Well, that is thanks to Mark Clattenburg there. Brilliant insight into how communication systems benefits referees, assistant referees, fourth officials, and indeed everyone involved with the game. Thanks very much.
Thank you.